Disclaimer, the views and opinions expressed in this program do not represent the views of OurBigBlueBall.com and the staff. With that being said, enjoy the show.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our second podcast for Edo and HuMei's Round the Coffee Table. As usual, my name is Edo, and across the table is my mortal enemy,
HuMei. How y'all doing?
Hey, yeah, so we're glad you could join us again for our second podcast. Hopefully this will take off and we'll be able to get more of these to you on a more regular basis. Well, first thing is that our previous podcast, there were a couple of technical issues that we didn't realize until after we actually started sitting down and listening to it, and we had talked so much that we're like, yeah, we can't redo all of that.
Yeah,
Yeah, so as you can see, we are amateurs at podcasting, and well, that brings us to a topic that we wanted to talk about in this first segment of the podcast here, is that podcasting for amateurs. Now, when the excellent and talented Doug started thinking about things that we wanted to do for the site, HuMei and I decided, hey, you know what, why don't we try to do some podcasting?
Yeah. The idea was to, where we're doing the gaming around about games, this was more about just sitting around and shooting a bull about whatever comes up. And if anybody wants, if there's something you want us to talk about or would like, please get us an email.
And so when we first suggested it, I said to myself, okay, now what do we got to do to podcast? And I spent quite a bit of time searching all these sites, going into Google and Yahoo. Okay, podcasting, what do you need? And then once you talk a little bit about it, or you find a couple results, then you say, hey, you need some sort of splitter and all of this. And I'm looking around, and people aren't giving people right answers. They're giving them dodgy answers, or not giving them the materials that they need to do a podcast. And one day before coming on over to do some work on the website here, I stopped off at one of the dollar stores around the area, and I just happened to be perusing the discount aisle, clearance stuff. You see those little G.I. Joe figures they mark off for 50% or whatever it may be, and I saw a strange thing. It was an audio splitter, and I said to myself, maybe this will work. And I was telling HuMei about that. I said, oh, yeah, that'll probably work. And we plugged it in and did our first podcast. Lo and behold, it worked.
Yep, worked very well.
Yep. Since we're amateurs, we still had a couple of those technical issues. But it was so very simple, and it could have been in so many of these posts that I was going through on all those search engines. And in a nutshell, basically what you can do is you can go to any store. You can get an audio splitter. Sometimes it might be called a headphone splitter. All it is something that plugs right into your headphone jack, and you can plug two sets of headphones into it. Now, normally that's for, once again, headphones. However, if you are an expert in the field of electronics like HuMei is,
I wouldn't say all that,
but all you need to do is plug that into the microphone port, or since
microphone
we're wearing
jack.
And we're using headsets right now. You plug that into the microphone jack, plug into the two headsets, you're good to go. And that brings us to, well, what we're doing is we're using Audacity, and that's a free audio editor and whatnot that you can use to record, and that's what we're using right now to record this. And you can either just buy the one that just has like the dual splitter here, or you can go on Amazon. We're using a little that little white star-like thing. It's made by Belkin, and you can get that off of Amazon like for say $8, and it has 5 ports, so that way you can get a whole party of people in here podcasting. And easy stuff. You need Audacity, you need one of these splitters, boom, you're good to go.
Yep.
Especially if you're having multiple people talking. And hopefully we're going to be getting a little better with these and adding some more stuff. But that, in a nutshell, is basically what you need to podcast. And I guess it sort of leads us into our next segment and whatnot. And a couple of new things on TV here. One of the things we were talking about in the other podcast was that Agents of S.H.E.I.L.D. was due to debut. And
Yep.
we recorded our original one like in early September, and this is now getting to be late October.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll get these probably uploaded back to back just so that we get them out of the way. And once again, one of the shows coming up is Agents of S.H.E.I.L.D. And I watched 2 episodes of it. How many have you seen there, HuMei?
I've seen every one of them so far. I'm a little more avid viewer.
Oh, yeah. So what did you think of the series overall? Once again, I've only seen 2. I'll give my opinion just because I've seen just 2 of the episodes. But what have you thought about it?
Well, overall, I like it. It's gives more background to S.H.I.E.L.D. itself, or at least this specific unit. And I like that it gives more of a background to the Marvel universe that the movies have made so big. It's not really on the superheroes, though, I have to admit. It's about, if you will, the adventures, or the continuing adventures of this highly classified, almost CIA comic book related unit that they go out and they look for just general issues that come up that really can't be talked about or can't be dealt with in any other way.
I'll give you a special prize if you can tell me what the acronym for S.H.I.E.L.D. is. Time's up.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, I can't see it.
My mind's going totally blank on it.
Strategic Homeland
Enforcement, Strategic Homeland Enforcement, Investigations and Logistics Division.
Well, that'd be 2 I's. S.H.I.E.L.D, wouldn't it be? S.H.I.E.L.D.
No, enforcement starts with an E.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, it should be I.E. then, right? Investigation, Enforcement. And what did you say for L.D. was?
Logistics Division.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. I'll give you
that
a prize.
I remember.
You get my eternal friendship. Yes.
Okay.
That's worth about, I don't know, a quarter and a half. I mean, I saw the first 2 episodes, and once again, maybe I'm just not giving the series a chance so much. It is. I'm watching another show that we'll talk a little bit about here, but it's not bad. But I think we were talking before, outside or whatnot, and also with Doug about it seems to be there's not a lot of connection to the Marvel universe. And I mean, S.H.I.E.L.D. is super spies and technical, individuals that don't have a lot of superpowers. It's more extraordinary humans versus superhumans. And I felt that if you just pulled the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. name off of it and slapped another name on it, it would be pretty much the same series. That being said, the series is still in its infancy.
Right.
And hopefully they'll have more cameos or something that'll give it a little more kick to it, because I think the fans may have been spoiled by the movies where you got Thor and you got the Hulk and all of that. And we did get to see Samuel L. Jackson as Fury in, what was it, the end of the first episode, wasn't it? Or second?
I want to say it was the second episode.
Okay, yeah. So that did give it a nice little tie to the movies itself. Right. And, of course, you have the return of, what's the gentleman's name? As you can see, I've seen a lot of the episodes.
Oh, yeah, Phil
Hartman?
Carlson.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, he returned, which was a nice little, really out of left field feeling there.
Well, as I understand it, one of the things they're alluding to is that somewhere in the far-flung future, they're going to release how he survived. They don't tell that yet.
Yeah,
that's when it's like, how did he get through that?
Yeah, I keep saying he was in where? He kept saying he went to some place for a vacation, island.
Yeah.
Was it Bali or something like that? Yeah. But so that's one of the mysteries that's going to be unraveled as the series goes on. And not a bad. HuMei likes it. Which okay, if you give it, 4 Thor muscles, max, what would you call it?
Oh, you would say what, 1 out of 5? We'll go with that. I'll say it was about a 3 to a 4, somewhere in there. I think there's some room for growth, but that's because it is just started out. It's going to have to grow, and I think certain things about it will have to grow on you. But I remember a lot of different TV shows that I've seen that with, that when they first started out, you're like, what in the world? And before you know it, it's like, hey.
Yep, I'm somewhere probably between a 2 and a 2.5. Well, no, if we're doing it out of 5, I'm going somewhere between 2.5 and 3, just because it's a superhero show on television, and there really hasn't. Well, no, there have been a couple. You had the Superman. It was way back when I was in high school. What was it, Lois and Clark?
Yeah.
The Adventures of Superman. I called it Adventures of Lip Lock because they seem to be more attached to the lip than anything else. And then you have a couple of new ones. What's that? Arrow?
Yeah, Arrow. Although I've had a hard time trying to follow that because I just don't have the time off to watch it when it's on.
And well, of course you had the show Heroes on, and I think that was mainly when I was overseas. I think it did its intro and then got through most of it, and then I think the series sort of faded off or whatnot. But I'm not sure the day that it was on. It was something like just a day that I couldn't watch. I think maybe I was working late or I was somewhere else or whatever. I just didn't get into it.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see a couple more of those type of series. I think there's another superhero series coming on as well. I don't know what it's called. I thought I saw a commercial for it a while ago. But that being said, one that I've been watching and HuMei hasn't had the chance to watch it yet is Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah, it's funny about Sleepy Hollow because when the commercials first come on, I was like, man, I want to jump on this. This looks really good. And yet, because of the nights it's on and the hours I work, I can't catch it. And I'm thinking I might have to just wait until the series comes out on DVD and I'll start buying it that way, because I really think I'll like it. I really do, but I just can't catch it.
Yeah. Well, the whole basis behind Sleepy Hollow is that Ichabod Crane he was killed during the Revolutionary War, fighting off a Hessian who was basically, it was the horseman, whatnot, and due to some elements, their blood was intermingled, and Ichabod Crane suddenly wakes up in modern day, along with these.
All right, now I got to ask: did he wake up in his grave or what?
Yes, he did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, woke up in his grave, and I hope I'm not spoiling anything for anyone out there, but hopefully it won't give away too much. It's just that certain murders are taking place. People are getting beheaded. I wonder by who.
Yeah.
But at first you think, okay, this is going to be like a supernatural X-Files type of thing, but then it starts to get into the Book of Revelations.
Oh.
And that's when things start to really take a turn, because it turns out that I guess I can just give this away. The Headless Horseman is one of the horsemen of the apocalypse.
Well, say it's okay to give it away because people have already watched the show, bud. We can talk about it all day.
Well, some people might not have seen it so far, but I won't give away a lot of the spoilers. But I'm digging each of the episodes just because of the different types of things. Like, hey, wait a minute, I know that. I don't know about that Native American deity, but I know that particular book, Lesser Key of Solomon, and all of that, and just from of course my fantasy background. But it's a neat series that I'm really hoping it takes off. I'm already going to be buying the DVD box set when it comes out.
Oh, okay.
So right off the bat, I'm going to be getting that. But it was kind of strange. It was only I think the second episode, and Fox had already renewed it for a second season.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's just because of the strong ratings of the first episode, but it gives the two main characters, there's a female police officer and Ichabod Crane, do have a nice chemistry together. And, of course, you got the witty British accent with him, even though he was, in the storyline, he was siding with the American colonies and everything.
Well, at
like
that time, everybody would probably you want to imagine that everybody spoke with a bit of a British accent because they were still a British colony.
Yeah, so, you know what, if you have the opportunity to see both Agents of S.H.E.I.L.D. and Sleepy Hollow, suggested you do it. So there are really two nice TV series that have popped up in recent time, and give them a shot. And you know what? You can debate or see or tell us what you think of them. We'll give you your email address at the end of the program. That way you can write in here. Going on TVs, the natural progression is, of course, movies.
Yeah.
And what was one of the movies that we got to see recently?
Pacific Rim.
Yes, Pacific Rim. I think what was it said that you were up at like midnight waiting at Walmart to buy it?
Oh, that was the big joke. The truth is, I went down to Walmart the day before because I saw a commercial that come up and said that it was on sale today, and I was like, okay. I slipped on down, and it wasn't in. It was the next day. I was like, all right. So I went down the next day after I got off work and picked it up because I wasn't able to see it at the theater. I really wanted to see it, and Doug and I sat and watched it, and well, we watched it. Now I got the Blu-ray edition, which also came with the regular DVD. We popped it in and watched it, and it was like, oh, we just watched the regular DVD. Well, now we got to watch the Blu-ray just because it's going to be so much better. And we watched it again, and then later on, Ed came over and we put it on a third time, and of course Ed already had it and was watching it at his house.
Yeah, what happened was I bought it that Friday. I was out. Went to a used bookstore in a neighboring town here. Well, not used bookstore, but a used store. And I was telling myself, I was looking, they had a couple of recent DVDs. There were new ones on one of the tables in the middle of the store or whatnot. I was thinking, new DVDs. Something was popping into my head. Like, oh, that's right, Pacific Rim came out, didn't it? I think it did. And I looked around there, of course, because I didn't want to, if you can get it right there, that'd be fine.
Yeah.
I looked around, and of course they didn't have it, so I had to, just went up a couple, 2 blocks. It's a big strip mall, so to speak, and it has a whole bunch of, Home Depot and Walmart and everything like that. I said, well, you know what, Walmart will probably have it. Walked in, lo and behold, there it was, picked it up. I watched it that evening. That being said, I really liked it.
Oh, I loved it. But then again, I'll be honest with you, I got a history of that. I still want to get a copy of Gojira because I'm sorry, I love the old monster movies. I love King Kong. I love the old Godzilla. I loved Godzilla versus King Kong, okay? I loved the Giant Mantis. All these just terrible B-rated movies from back in the 60s that I loved them. I'm sorry. There was just so much.
Now I got to ask, were you one of... Now, when you say those kind of movies, monster movies, now, is it monster versus the humans, where they're just, fleeing in terror, and then the scientist gets the giant weapon and blows them up, or whatever it is, aka the first Godzilla movie? Or is it the monster versus monster action?
I normally like the original type. I'm sorry, when Godzilla got to where he was doing karate kicks, I was like, okay, this has definitely lost it for me. Like I say, I loved Godzilla versus King Kong because it still kept a lot of that original feel, just that you had these two great movie monsters that were involved. When they got into all these other monsters, that was like, well, Godzilla versus this thing, and Godzilla's now a friend of so-and-so, and Godzilla's protecting this little boy, and it's like, no, that was not Godzilla. Godzilla was a creature that just wanted to go back to where it came from and be left alone.
Well, what is kind of... The original series of Godzilla movies, what they do is that I think it's every 10 years, what they do is they reset the series.
Yeah.
But what it'll do is it'll use the original Godzilla movie as a starting point.
Okay.
And then what they'll do is they'll create a string of movies just based on that.
Right.
Like the one series will have Godzilla's more, I guess you could say, a little more heroic.
Yeah.
But another times will be just basically the frightening force of nature.
Right.
And one of the things that when I was overseas in Japan, they came out with Godzilla Final Wars, and of course it wasn't final because they were just giving the character a rest.
Right.
But that one had just about every Godzilla villain in there, where you just take them out. Even had the American Godzilla in there too, and original Godzilla basically beat him in like 3.2 seconds.
Yeah.
I think he jumped, Godzilla flicked his tail, and he went and crashed into the Tokyo Dome or something like that.
Oh, and let us not forget, just thought about another Godzilla you've got to see. Go look for it on YouTube. I know it's there. Godzilla versus Bambi.
Oh yes, a classic matchup. It is. If you don't know who wins, we'll let you see who wins. It's very surprising, or maybe not.
It's just there's so much what's the word I'm looking for? Suspense in the movie. It's so suspenseful. Yes, there we go. That's the word.
But okay, so getting back to Pacific Rim here, like HuMei, I'm from the background. I like those. I'm more toward the fighting. The Godzilla is trying to beat back the giant monster, and of course, I'm not as old as HuMei, so. I mean, and I don't mean that in the bad way.
Right.
Saying you're from the generation that enjoyed those ones. I like the more butt kicking one because there's a lot of action.
Well, I do like when Godzilla versus Mothra. A lot of these are great movies. And I'm not faulting them at all. I think they're wonderful movies. Like I say, when I started seeing Godzilla do karate kicks, and he's doing the old Ultraman, doing hand symbols and stuff like that, and it's like, what in the... No. I can't do that. To me, Godzilla's a little more natural than that. He's a little more... He's not an intellectual. He's more animalistic.
Well, yeah, he's basically just a mutated lizard based on... And, of course, people know that it spawned from the fear of the radioactivity and whatnot during the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And now at least that it was sort of based on fear, but he's turned into sort of an anti-hero,
right?
So to speak. Right. He destroys quite a bit of stuff, and in some of the movies he's like a force of nature and just indiscriminately destroys things. But like I said, a lot of the generational movie series give the Godzilla mythos a different sort of view.
Yeah.
So what you do is, you can go on and read about all these, and
well, it's like you say, you're talking about the Godzilla over the years. He's definitely changed. I remember as a kid, like I say, I watched the old Godzilla, and then saw those other movies, and then I remember the Godzilla TV series that came out.
Cartoon.
Oh, it was good. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was like Godzilla breathing fire and whatnot. But you know what? For what it was nice to have the movie monster for a weekly broadcast.
Oh, and let us not forget the Marvel series of comics on Godzilla. I forget how many issues there were. I actually had just about every issue. And I loved it because the idea was that Godzilla was almost like the TV series by Hanna-Barbera, where had the scientists that were following him around. But I remember there towards the end, I think it was the last episode or the last issue, where S.H.E.I.L.D. captured Godzilla and took him to New York.
I think I remember hearing about that.
Oh, it was great because in the end, Godzilla's just trying to get out of New York, and you end up with S.H.I.E.L.D. started out, and it was too much for them to handle. So here comes the Fantastic Four in there, and I want to say even the Avengers got into it, and Godzilla's just trying to get away. And never forget, the thing I'll never forget is the very last panel in the comic was Godzilla going out through New York Harbor, and Fantastic Four was like, well, if the monster's leaving, why worry about it? Just let it go. And the Avengers kind of took the same attitude. And then they go to that last thing, and you see Spider-Man hanging on the side of a building, looking at Godzilla, and he's like, what did I just miss?
And what we'll do is we'll talk just a little bit more about Godzilla and get back to the Pacific Rim here, is that they're supposed to be having another American-made movie for Godzilla. Apparently, it's not going to be like the one with what was it?
The little Godzillas?
No, not so much. Well, not so much that, but it didn't have Ferris Bueller in it.
Oh, okay.
So it's probably going to be Godzilla versus some other monsters or whatnot. So getting Pacific Rim here, I mean, it was a good monster mash.
Yes. Yeah, it was.
And Guillermo del Toro, I think he did a great job trying to capture the essence of the old Japanese monster movies. Because, I mean, while the U.S. may be, I guess sort of the center of making movies based on just the classic monsters.
Right.
We've got Dracula and
Wolfman and
all that type of thing. Japan was the king of greater than life monsters.
Yes.
And this really, I think, duplicated a lot of it, and it was just sort of gratifying to see a giant robot beat the crap out of a monster, because
right.
I think the last time we ever saw any type of mecha series was, and I think I lent it to you, Robot Jocks.
Yeah,
had the guy from
we
Alien
sat
Nation?
and watched it together.
Yeah,
yes.
that's right. The guy from Alien Nation had the human character in there, and it wasn't the greatest, but back in high school it was mecha.
Yep.
It was BattleTech on the screen, well, sort of, and we had to make do with that for a long while until we saw this, and that was pretty darn cool.
I'm hoping they actually come out with more movies on either the Pacific Rim, like Pacific Rim 2, 3, whatever, or just more movies of that genre. That overall feel, the giant monster, it just try and keep it, or I hope they try and keep it in the more almost, I guess, visceral, where you tend to think it through. It's not, like I say, I don't want to see these monsters come out that are well, this thing can fly and it can do karate chops, and this one over here is a boxer, and this one's got a gun, and no. Give me something. Even if it's, well, like I say, on the old Godzilla and the King Kongs, the original movies, they took in their day the weapons that mankind had to try and fight this thing, and either did or didn't work. Heck, I love the original War of the Worlds, where mankind threw everything at it, and nothing worked. It was something little.
Innocuous.
That handled the monster for us, or the creatures. I love that feel. And I think sometimes Hollywood goes too far the other way with that. That sometimes things happen that aren't our fault, but we have to deal with, and we should come together and help each other with it. I don't know if this world will ever do that, but I think there's something to that. That there are things that are not our fault, but we deal with it.
Well, it's a common science fiction cliche that what will happen is there is an external threat.
Yeah.
They'll come down, start wiping out everyone, then all of humanity sets aside their differences, and then bands together to destroy the common enemy. And that's, well, it's sort of a metaphor for what we should be doing.
Right.
But
that's actually more of the common thing now, because like I say, in War of the Worlds, if you think about it, there was the scientist who was working on the answer, him and his crew, and mankind literally ripped vehicles apart that the people were in, and to try and get away, and you just saw mankind crumbling on himself. There was nothing, had it not been for the bacteria, mankind would have been done. We were doing ourselves in at that point.
Okay, well, now I think we're getting a little too deep into the territory here.
But isn't that what this is about? The podcast around the coffee table.
Yeah, well, that is very true. But when you're talking about Pacific Rim 2, I'm reading that there is talk about it where they're probably designing plots as we speak.
Yeah.
But I mean, what's 2014's coming up now? It'll probably take them 2-3 years maybe to redo them, depending on what the response is.
Well, it's like on Pacific Rim, I could see when you watch the movie without giving away the whole movie. There's one point where they talk about where things started to turn around, started to win, and then they started to lose again. Well, what about doing a movie on when they started to win with the lesser Jaegers, where you could still have that at the end? You win, but we know they're still coming. But we're and that could still leave you with a very upbeat feeling at the end of the movie. And then you could turn around and say, well, now I'm going to watch the other one and say how it finally ended.
So, do you think this will lead to more giant robot movies coming out, depending on the success? It's been pretty much a success. It's not a huge hit. It's not the blockbuster of the summer, but...
Right. Well, I'll say this: I'm not one really to try and second guess Hollywood because I've seen some really great movies go out and they do nothing. As far as Hollywood won't do anything more on it, they just kind of like let it sit there. And then I've seen some movies that I personally thought weren't all that great, and they do a whole series on them. It's like, what? I don't try to second guess them anymore. I'll say this: I really hope they do. I really do.
Now, what we're going to do is that there is a company out there that makes these things called mockbusters.
Yes.
So it's a company called the Asylum. Now, that might be grating on some people's ears right now because they're not really thought of highly in film circles, mainly because they're low budget, I'm going to say knockoffs,
right,
of popular movies that are coming out. Now, it's not like what's that show, that movie called? Be Kind, Please Rewind.
Oh yeah.
Remember that, where they call it, where they sweet it?
Yeah.
It's not like one of those. What they'll do is they'll take the movie and they'll try to make a similar plot with similar characters and whatnot.
Trying to get that similar feel.
Yeah, I mean, when you make a movie called Sharknado, where it's a tornado with flying sharks,
yeah,
you got to sort of, some of them are tongue-in-cheek like that one. But what they'll do is they'll take, for example, Aliens vs. Predator. I think there was something called Alien Hunter, which was not really that great.
Yeah.
But one that we saw was I Am Omega.
Yes.
Based on Omega Man. That wasn't very bad. I mean, it's not going to win an Academy Award, but it wasn't bad. It had, what was that? A giant octopus.
Oh yeah, Cloverfield. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember the name of the movie.
Oh, Monster. That's all it was called.
It was something like that. But it was based on the movie Cloverfield, except that instead of happening in New York, it happened, I think, in Tokyo. And there were Americans it was in Moscow. It was in Moscow, and these Americans were over there on vacation or something like that when the monster attacks. It was a good idea. When I see these, what reminds me of is the 1980s and the B-rated movies everybody came out with.
Sort of like the old drive-in flicks and whatnot.
Well, there was a whole series of B-rated movies, and some of them did very well. They Live was a great movie. It was a B-rated movie.
Was that the one about the ants?
No.
Oh.
This is the one where it's got Roddy Piper in it. When you mention his name, normally people remember him. He was a wrestler back in the 80s, and
I think he still does some wrestling now.
His famous line in the movie was, "I'm here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble gum." And I'm telling you, it's corny, but it's good. It's one of those. Trust me on this. Go rent it. I would not say buy it because you may not like it, but you got to try. You got to check it out once, just to say I've seen that. And it's funny how many people I've talked to. It's like I'll mention They Live, and they're like, a lot of times they won't even remember the movie by the title, and I throw that line out like, "Oh, I saw that. That was a good movie. It really was."
Well,
it had terrible special effects. Some of the lines were goofy as all get out, but man, was it a good show.
Okay, so what this is getting at, what we're talking about, the Asylum, is that, yes, they made a version of Pacific Rim. Originally, the name, and I guess maybe they changed it at the last minute, or it's just in certain territories, it was called Atlantic Rim. Okay, but and I thought it was renamed to From Beneath or something like that, and I haven't picked it up myself. But HuMei and I watched the trailer. It doesn't seem that bad, but some people have been saying, like on YouTube and on posts, it's not that great a movie. But there aren't a lot of giant robot movies out right now, so
get what you can.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about picking it up here, and we can review that in a later podcast or whatnot. But
although I would love to see them do a couple of movies on, like, take the MechWarrior world.
Well, they actually had a cartoon of that years ago.
Well, but I'd like to see some just outright movies. I think they could really do something with that, or the Robotech world. Think of with the special effects we have now with CGI. I think they could really do some great movies on those.
I think they've been trying to do that, but there's one thing that gets in the way, is something called development hell. Yeah. And if all the license, if you try to take a big name license and the holder of that license doesn't particularly like what you're going to be doing with it, you could be stuck there for a long, long time.
Right.
There are a lot of movies they could be making that could be really cool. Just even some old sci-fi stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to see some of old well, not Arthur C. Clarke. Who's the guy who did the positronic brain? Came up with that?
Isaac Asimov.
Yes. With our technology, we can do stuff like, I didn't think iRobot was that bad.
No, I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked iRobot. What's some of the others along this? Bicentennial Man, I like that, which is also one of his, I believe. What was the one about the little kid?
No,
AI.
Was that by Isaac Asimov?
I don't know if it was, but I like the...
But what wasn't Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Was that Asimov? No,
Yeah.
was it?
I think it was.
But when they took that and turned it into Blade Runner, of course they changed plots and everything like that. And I mean, Blade Runner was a pretty good movie, I guess. I mean, you can see a lot of symbolism in it too if you want. But now we're getting far off track again.
Yeah, that's what it's about, though.
Pacific Rim. If you have not seen it, if you can see it on like Netflix or Hulu, or better yet, go out and buy the DVD to support. That way, we get more movies like this. Do so. It wasn't the perfect movie. I would have liked to have seen more of the other robots as well. I mean,
right.
We get Gypsy Danger pretty much taking on everything else, and there wasn't a lot of fighting with the other robots. They punched a couple of times, then a monster pops out and destroys them.
Right.
And of course, it puts more of the heroic aspect on the main character's robot.
Right.
But I would like to see some more from a different angle, just to get more impact out of the movie.
Well, that's kind of what I was saying about liking to see maybe something done from an earlier period of the same time frame, or same time, because or the same earlier period in that timeline, because if you recall in the movie, it's talking about like originally there were apparently hundreds of these things running around, and they had slowly been to where they were now down to the whatever dome, Shield Dome or whatever, Shatter Dome, had 30 bays for 30 different Jaegers, and that was just one of the many facilities like that around the Pacific Ocean. And now they're down to like 4 or 5 of them, and it's the very end. It's looking like the monsters are going to win. And to get the feel of the other things, I think you'd kind of have to get to that earlier time because one of the things they did definitely get into with the movie was showing that like every country, the way they did they shared technology on how to build them, but what they did with them was totally different. I mean, the Aussies, theirs had that the rockets they fired out. The Chinese had that third armed Jaeger. You got into more of a different feel for each country, and yet they work together so well. It's like the one Gypsy Danger was supposed to be the class 3 or the third class Jaeger, and you definitely got to feel like this thing was put out on an assembly line, so they had a whole mess of them. How many you don't know, but what made Gypsy Danger stick out as far as all the others of that class was the crew. It was the men who ran it that actually made her stick out because they took risks that they didn't even need to take, but it was those risks that gave them their style and let them really become one with the machine and go farther.
I think one of the scenes just made me laugh was whatever it is. One of them kaiju is whatever it is, trying to find that scientist guy who did the mind meld or whatever it was called. And you hear it stop and turn around. There's Gypsy Dangers walking down the street, lugging a huge
oil tanker.
Oil tanker behind. I was like, oh, jeez. But once again, I'm giving this thing like just because of making a movie and getting it to the point where it's on the big screen in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I'm giving it like 3.5 out of 4.
That's where I was thinking.
4 out of 5. However, our wacky situation is going.
Although I will say this, I don't know who the girl was that played the Chinese girl that was his partner.
Japanese girl.
The Japanese girl. I give her 5 out of 5. Then I really like her. I really liked her.
And you know what? Actually, apparently, it was also highly praised by a number of individuals in Japan. One of the guys one of the pioneers of the giant robot cartoon genre.
Oh.
He was like, oh man, and he was really impressed with it. And there was another gentleman, I can't remember what his name. He says, I was really thinking about sort of when you were talking about the old days with the old Godzilla movies, with in Japan the equivalent of the Power Ranger with only one Power Ranger, whatnot. Really impressed with, like, I brought back a lot of memories. So
Ultraman, I remember
like
Ultraman.
Yes. Stuff like that, and it's just a good romp.
Right.
And I guess we sort of talked about it, but as you can see, some of our taste in television series and movies can be kind of eclectic.
Yes.
And HuMei and I share some of the same taste in movies. I mean, generally, we do like the same movies. One of our favorite movies of all time. It didn't do that well in theaters. It's one of those ones that you have to have a very specific sense of humor to understand, to fully appreciate, to worship the interaction of the characters.
Yes.
And that movie is
Hudson Hawk.
Oh, yes, I love Hudson Hawk. I do not know why, but probably just because we're just messed up in the head, maybe.
No, I think the whole premise, as far as Hudson Hawk is concerned, the whole idea that here are two guys that are the best at what they do. Yes, they use music to keep time. They figure out how long it's going to take to do a job, and they start singing a song based on, all right, it's going to be 5 minutes and such. We're going to sing a song. When the song's done, we better be out of here. I love that. My only thing is the bad guys in that movie. I'm sorry. They to me ruined the movie.
Well, if you haven't seen Hudson Hawk, it was a Bruce Willis movie that came out in the early to mid 90s.
Yeah.
And it had a number of problems. It went over budget. Apparently, there were rumors of script rewrites right in the middle of shooting and everything like that. But for some reason, it's witty banter, one-liners. It even has, CSI New York, it has a blonde guy. He played in the movie as one of the villains.
Okay.
I don't know what the gentleman's name is, but he was in that.
Yeah.
And he played a sort of a bit character.
Okay.
But anyway, it's about a cat burglar, and as HuMei said, he and his partner don't use watches to commit their crimes. They use music. They sing songs. And what they do is they always test each other on how long a particular song is, and when they go through, it says, okay, it'll take you 5 minutes and change to finish this one. And then Eddie Hawk will say, 5:32, swinging on a star.
There you go.
Hey, Eddie, they invented something while you were in. It was called a watch. But if you haven't been able to see that, they have like a collector's edition that you can pick up off of Amazon. If you like those sort of really wacky villains, HuMei said that he didn't really care for villains, but just the wackiness of the premise of the entire show, or the movie there, is something you have to watch at least once. If you are a geek and you have not seen Hudson Hawk, I will come to your house personally and take your geek card away.
Yep. It's like they live. If you're a geek and don't have that, trust me on this. We will contact Geek Central and have them look into whether or not you should still have your geek card, because you've got to see this. I'm not saying you got to like it, but you've got to see it.
It's it's kind of like there are a lot of movies. Like, I know there's some people out there who've never seen Star Wars.
Huh?
There are probably some. Yeah, I'm thinking there are people because it just hasn't appealed to them. Like, there are probably a couple of movies that I should have seen as well, but I haven't seen up to this point. I know that there are people who never had an interest in fantasy and Lord of the Rings and everything, and they want to see Lord of the Rings. And of course, I guess for the ladies out there who don't particularly like that, I guess some of the male characters were attractive enough that it kept them in their seat for what's the uncut edition? It's like 32 hours long, I think, for like the first movie there. But what are some of the other movies that we really enjoy. I mean,
Oh, well.
for some reason, I keep picking up Bruce Willis movies.
Yeah.
And one of our favorites as well is The Last Boy Scout.
Oh, yes.
And unfortunately, that one,
Last Action Hero is another good one that just I liked.
I didn't like Last Action Hero too much.
Well, what I liked about Last Action Hero, some of the things was I still at that time had trouble picturing that Stallone would apparently work with them to at least get that cardboard cutout of him in the Terminator gear, which was used in the movie. But then I found out later that Bruce Willis, Stallone, and Schwarzenegger all apparently get along very well, and they've even done business ventures together with the Hard Rock Cafes theirs.
Well, wait a minute, weren't they all in Expendables or something?
Yeah, but that's much later. I mean, shoot, those just come out last couple of years. I mean,
I haven't seen them at all. I haven't seen the Expendables 1 or 2 yet.
I've seen them. It's great to see them all in a movie together, but I'm not that impressed with the Expendables. I liked Expendables 2 in that they did have even more people together, and it was great to see that, and it was great to see they make a lot of plays on each other's famous lines. There's one in there where I remember Schwarzenegger says, "I'll be back," and Bruce Willis says, "You've been back enough, I'll be back."
Some other movies that I personally I like, just some things that pop out in my head are, one of them was Contact.
Yes. Yeah, Contact was a good movie.
Jamie Lee Foster?
Yeah.
Jamie Foster. What? Jodie Foster.
Jodie Foster. Yeah. My mind went totally blank on that one.
That was one of the few. I saw it as a matinee. When did that come out? I think it came out in late 90s.
Yeah.
I went to see it as a matinee in neighborhood theater or whatnot. It was one of the few movies that I said, if I would have seen this and paid full price, I would have felt like I got my money's worth.
Right.
I don't currently own it on DVD, which is kind of strange. I'll have to make a note of that and pick it up. But it's a sci-fi wormhole. If you haven't seen Contact, it's based off a novel. I think that one, not Arthur C. Clarke. That was someone. That's another gentleman. I can't remember his name. And a lot of people.
Oh, was that? The guy that was billions and billions and billions was his line. The scientist.
No, you know what? There are people right now listening to it or shouting his name, and they're like trying to.
I wish I could hear you because I'd be like, yeah.
Yeah, but that was just it's the background of faith.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to give away the movie. It doesn't have a base. It doesn't have a religious basis to it.
Right.
But it sort of puts faith on a certain level. And what I'll do is I'll leave it at that for those who want to go see it. It's not an action movie. It's one you got to sit down and sort of think about, sort of suspenseful, just to see what's going on. But I suggest you see that one. One of my other favorites that I encountered in high school was the black and white movie Harvey.
Oh yes,
James Stewart.
That is a classic.
It's a black and white movie. Maybe some of the individuals who like the type of subject matter that we do, like games and everything like that. It's not an action movie. It's sort of it's a comedy. James Stewart, if you don't know who he is, you might know him by the name Jimmy Stewart, which he usually went by. He was a gentleman who played.
Well, he's a very well-known actor, but I'll say this: It's a Wonderful Life.
Yes. Well, I was thinking, what's the character he played? Man, I'm getting old. I can't remember all the stuff.
George Bailey.
George Bailey. He plays that character, and I'm not. He seems to be about the same-ish age, I think.
Well, he seems to almost be timeless. He never ages through any of his movies.
But Harvey, it's about a gentleman who his friend is this 6-foot rabbit.
It's invisible.
That's invisible.
Yeah.
And I had to pick it up on video after I saw it, and then eventually I picked it up on DVD.
Yeah.
And my mother also likes the movie. She pointed out a couple of things in it too that'll make you think. And we can go. I don't want to spoil things about the movie itself, even though we spoiled a couple of things in some previous movies. but I'm sure you can probably see the kinds of movies that sort of shape our character, or at least give you an idea of what kind of things we like. And a couple of these, the TV shows and the movies we have already gone over. Hopefully, you sort of check them out. Like I said, maybe they're on Netflix, maybe they're on Hulu, or any of these sites that you.
Heck, I'll say this: go check out YouTube. I seem to be finding all kinds of movies that are up on YouTube now. They used to do them in parts where you get 10 minutes, then 10 minutes, then 10 minutes, then 10 minutes, and you had to continue that way. But now I'm starting to see where they're apparently putting them up all the way in their entirety again. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know what the legal issues are, but I love it. I'm getting where, honestly, most stuff I see on TV I'm not impressed with anymore. I get all these, what do they call them? The
reality television?
Yeah, reality. I hate reality television. To me, I've got enough reality in my life.
Yeah, like I said, like you said, just getting tired of it. I don't watch a lot of TV anymore. I've got basic cable.
Yeah.
And used to have, 300 channels and nothing was on.
Yep.
And we just decided to get rid of that, and you just stick with basic cable and you pay.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think overall the quality of television has dropped. When I was a kid, you had 4 different, if you will, overall stations. There was ABC, NBC, CBS, and PBS. That was it, and maybe 1 or 2 other independent stations. But there were things that you got good TV. I'm sorry, on Sunday night, I'm going to say this straight up. Who here remembers watching Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, and then when that went off, onto The Wonderful World of Disney every Sunday night? A lot of your independent stations would have the kind of movies that we got into, as far as like your creature feature or the Kung Fu Theater. I know that here in this area, it was Channel 20, and the thing I hated was I couldn't pick it up at my house. Where I lived was in a very small town, and we lived down in a holla. We couldn't pick it up, but my neighbors all the way around could, so I'd have to go to their houses on Saturday just to try and catch the movie, and it's like I felt like I was using them, so I didn't go do it.
Yeah, and now, especially what we're doing here, we're doing videos and everything like it. Generally, you can probably find at any given moment, whether it be on YouTube or your favorite video site or some other website. Some people are just coming up with web TV shows and all that. Probably at this very moment, you can find something that interests you, and it would never have been on TV.
Right.
Just because you don't know who would be interested in it. And you know what? With this right now, we're if we get
all right, I'm going to do a plug on a show that's not on any, or it's up on YouTube. You can see it all in its entirety. It was a web series, The Guild. Great series. Don't know if it could have ever done a TV show out of it, but trust me on this. Sit down and watch the first episode. It loses a little bit in the lack of cliffhanger, in that now you can just go straight to the next one. When you watched it and then you had to sit there for a week or longer waiting for the next episode and got to think on it, it really it helped to bring it to fruition, but it's still a good series. By the way, Felicia Day, if you ever hear this, I am thoroughly impressed. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, so we've got a couple of things here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to sort of roll into sort of recent games and stuff that we got sort of coming in the pipe here. One of the things we're trying to get up here, and we took a video of it, and we got some little upload issues. We're going to be doing putting up a video of Death Angel, which is a card game based in the Warhammer 40,000 universe, far future, space marines, giant armor fighting aliens, whatnot. We'll try to get that up as soon as we can. Let's see here. HuMei, you bought Zombies a little while ago. And we played it. I think it took us like 2 hours to get through it.
Right.
And I don't think it's a bad game. I think I like the fact that there's a lot of sets out just for the the uniqueness. Just because you got these little box sets and you can buy a whole bunch and add different tiles and everything like that. But compared to say Last Night on Earth,
agreed. Last Night on Earth, I think the funny thing is, I'm going to say this. I think both games bring certain feels or different feels of your zombie horror movie into play. I'll say as a bonus or Benny for zombies is after you get about the second or third turn in, there are so many zombies out that you start to get that overwhelming feel like there's no way. And you get that feel that is common with a lot of the movies. That just you're in trouble. Last Night on Earth, not so much, but Last Night on Earth gives you more of a storyline feel to it, where you're going to you have to survive, and the mission you have is very movie-like. And I prefer Last Night on Earth, but I'm not going to say anything bad about zombies because I do like it.
Yeah, we had a blast. I think, did I end up winning or something like that?
I think you did. Yeah.
That allowed me to. I think I had a card that allowed me to skip zombies or remove zombies.
Yeah, and you just have to be close enough. And I'll say this: for a game where you're supposed to be competitive, I think you and I ended up cooperating just to try and get close.
No, what I was doing is that I was you were having me clear out zombies just following behind me.
Yeah. Well, I was waiting for you to die off, and I figured I'd go in there and I'd do the next. We kind of like leapfrog. Yeah. But I was able to just kind of like sit back and help just enough to where you were doing most of the clearing, and I kept thinking he's going to die this turn, and I'll go up, and he didn't die.
Well, I think what we're finding out, since we're just playing it, you and I, who am I?
Yeah.
I don't think it would have been as good as if you would have had 4 players. If you have
right.
4 players, that would have been the essence of chaos, like a zombie movie. Just
right.
Because because you got these cards you can play in other players, or there's zombies, or whatever, spawn a zombie there, whatnot,
Agreed.
and it really does give it an interesting. Just a sense of utter chaos, and that's something that we'd like you said with zombies. It gives you that feel of, man, there are a lot of zombies out there.
Right.
And then Last Night on Earth is, man, we got to survive.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's one thing I'm going to say about most games. It's funny how you get a lot of these games that'll be like 2 to 6 players. When it's 2 people, you get a certain feel. You get 6 people. The whole feel is so different, and it's the same game. You take Monopoly and put 2 people playing Monopoly, it's not going to be near as cutthroat as if there is 6 people playing Monopoly. And I throw that out because I think everybody knows Monopoly. Monopoly's been around forever. But you can get what I'm saying on that. There's that feel of when you've got 2 or 3 other people either stabbing you in the back or there to help you out, just different personalities jumping in. Some games get more into the social aspect where it's not the game itself, it just gets you talking and you're enjoying the things you're talking about while you're playing the game. Even that can, because you got more people just thrown into the conversation.
Let's see, what was another one? Oh, we finally got to play Forbidden Desert, or I call it Forbidden Dessert. You might have seen our video for Forbidden Island coming up here, and by the same makers, sort of the same type of feel. It's all the players, instead of finding these treasures, they need to get the pieces of this
flying machine.
That's it, flying machine. And what happens is that the cyclone is adding more sand to the desert, and you can't move. And instead of doing things like shoring up, you clear sand away and all that.
I'll say this: it's very much got the same feel as Forbidden Island, and yet at the same time, it's very, very different.
I think it's harder.
Oh yeah, I think it is. I agree with that. It is much harder. It's got a, but I say the overall feel is so it's so much the same and yet so different at the same time. If you've played Forbidden Island and you like it, get Forbidden Dessert.
Forbidden.
Yeah, that's right. Because it's a good finish. We actually lost both times we played.
Well, I think it was the first game we played. No one really knew how to play in it, and at least in Forbidden Desert, you also have to watch your water level since you're in a I was just about to say dessert.
Yep.
In a desert, and I think we were about 2 turns away from winning the second game, but someone's water ran out, so everyone lost. So I need to pick it up as soon as I can.
If he doesn't, I will. Yep. One way or another, we're going to get that.
Yeah, we'll try to get that up when we're able to. We've got another game coming up in the works here, and it's simple enough that it would serve as a nice little video, and I think we can put this into our schedule. It's a set of games called Timeline. Comes in a little tin about I don't know how big it's going to be. Maybe like 6x6 inches.
Yeah.
And what it is, it gives you a bunch of little cards, and it's a semi-educational game where what you do is that all the players, they get a hand of cards, and they're supposed to figure out where certain cards go in this particular timeline,
Yep.
which is where it comes from. And for example, you have a couple of things, and depending what set you get, there'll be discoveries, and there'll be science, and a couple other things, or events in history. And your whole goal is to, when you put a card out there, then what you do is you take this card, you see if it goes forward or back, or before or after any particular cards there. You put it in there, and you turn a face up, and if the dates, are wherever you're supposed to put it, then what you do is then you leave that card out there, and the whole goal is to get rid of your hand.
Right.
And what happens if you're wrong, and what happens is it goes back to the box, and you draw a card and whatnot. It's really quick, really easy, not very expensive, maybe $10-ish. Comes in a nice little tin, and you can mix and match sets if you wish. So if you want to have like historical discoveries and scientific discoveries together, because all it is dates.
Right.
And you say if this date comes before this one. Next one, what we were thinking, we got Settlers of Catan. This is a game that we enjoyed playing quite a number of times.
And I finally got it in my repertoire. I got a special deal.
Yep. So what we'll try to do is maybe we'll get that up as a video here. We'll have to have a couple more players on that.
Yeah. But I will say this: if you're a family or have a family, Settlers of Catan is really good. Is really a good sit around the table and get the kids involved. I'm not going to say you're real young children because there's a little bit of very basic math. But yeah, it's going to be one where if you've got kids that are in the 7, 8, 9 year age, they'll be able to get into it. I think that would be a good one. Oh, I know one we didn't even have written down that we ought to look into, or Apples to Apples. I'm going to just throw that out. People, I'm telling you something. It's hard to find a game, and I know this because I was a single parent for a long time. Find a game that you can enjoy and your kid can enjoy. Chutes and Ladders is for young kids. They'll really enjoy it, yes, but as the adult sitting there, you're going to get bored quick. Apples to Apples is not that way. Apples to Apples is one of those. It's not what you think, it's how you think.
Well, one of the things that I see is that you have to have, there is a certain age group that has to play Apples to Apples, or you have to be in a certain group just to know some of the cards that pop up. For example, if they have, some people, let's say Margaret Thatcher comes up.
Yeah.
Some kids may not know who the heck that is. So yeah, it's easy enough to grasp the whole rules, but you do need to have sort of basic pop culture type of things in it.
Yeah.
And
I'll also say this: don't forget that if you do have younger kids, look at Apples to Apples Junior. It cuts a lot of that out.
Oh yeah, that's right. I completely forgot about that. They've got a lot of different apples. I think they have a Disney Apples to Apples.
I think I did see something on that, and I might have to look into eventually getting that, just because I'm a Disney fan. I am. I actually have a copy of The Horse in the Gray Flannel Suit. It's an old Disney movie from back when Walt Disney ran their weekly series. I loved it. It's got Dean Jones in it.
Who else was in it? Dang it. I'm thinking of, he's married to Goldie Hawn, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
See, we're very old,
yeah,
and we can't remember these people's names. So,
but he also played in Big Trouble in Little China. He played in Old Yeller. That's how he played in Pollyanna.
Tango and Cash.
Yes. Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell.
Bird on the Wire.
Yep.
He was in there. They kept, and Who Am I? Doug kept saying when I was watching the movie, it's Kurt Russell. I'm like, it can't be Kurt Russell. And lo and behold, it was Kurt Russell.
Mm-hmm. Or Other ones that I have is the computer wore tennis shoes and the strongest man in the world. Yeah, I'm sorry. I got some old bad movies that I just love. Sorry.
Now, one of the ones that we started trying to get to or play a little bit, we bought a starter deck and a booster pack. I got a whole bunch of figures at home that I bought. Was an oldie game. WizKids stopped making it. Mage Knight.
I'm looking at how much time we've run up here. Wow.
Yeah. We're hopefully people are actually listening and being interested in what we have to say. But one of the things we were doing is playing a little bit of Mage Knight. Just even if it's just for the figures to use in other games.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's sort of an old game. WizKids stopped making it. They're still making HeroClix. I think it's called Nika WizKids or whatever it is. You can still pick it up in a couple of different places, starter sets and whatnot. Neverland Games, our neighborhood game store just down the road from us, literally. Had some sets out. Tony used to work for WizKids, so so he knows a lot about that.
And I'm gonna be picking up more. I'm sorry, I can see for the price you just can't beat it.
Well, yeah, even if it's just for figures to use in other games. Now the bases are a little bit bigger, but once again, you can use them for other games because right now there are a lot of different tactical games out there, miniatures games that you can use to those figures to play in. One of the ones we were thinking about playing is Star Trek Tactics.
Yeah.
That's one Doug wanted to play as well. Tony was telling us about a game called Infinity, which is a paintable miniatures game, and he's trying to get us into that.
And I admit, he's got me. Once he started showing me a little bit, yes, I can paint. I have painted. I'm not a great painter when it comes to figs, but I've got a long enough history that I've done it. I don't really look forward to that part, but I do. There's something about that game. It's just I'm going to have to check that out.
There's another game that you can get out there. It's called Fantaside, not to be confused with Infanticide.
Right.
That's what's just called Fantaside, and it's done by a couple of the gentlemen who created the Warhammer series, Fantasy, and 40,000. There was Andy Chambers, Rick Priestley, and everything like that. And it's sort of set in a parallel world where it has its own armies that you can use, but it also has some rules for you to be able to actually create your own armies based on figures you may have. For example, we just talked about Mage Knight. For me, when Mage Knight was in its heyday, I would go onto eBay and I'd buy like little 3 lots of figures for like $1.50 and get 3 of them. So I have like a lot of little those Atlantean golems. They're like little dwarves or whatnot, and that's one of the ones that I would use in that game. So if you see that, you can pick it up. I think it's a company I think it's called Alien Dungeon.
Okay, I don't know.
And apparently they're also coming out with another miniatures game based on the War of the Worlds type of thing.
Oh, really?
They call it All's Quiet on the Martian Front.
Oh,
so
cool.
It sort of has like the tripods of the
of the original books.
Yes,
yeah.
But then it'll have that. That's the Martian side. Then I believe the human side has tanks and things like that. So I don't know how it plays out. I think they're doing a Kickstarter of it, but I really haven't played much of.
I want the HMS Thunderchild.
They might have it. I don't know.
Well, no, the HMS Thunderchild in the original books was a ironclad. When you think of the Civil War, well, Britain had those after the Civil War. They had started building some, and they had of course, when that was originally written, that was the kind of stuff they had. Well, the HMS Thunderchild actually took out one of the Martians. It was the only attack that succeeded, but it basically everybody on the ship lost their lives, and they were protecting some people. I want to say they were trying to get across the Thames. They were survivors, refugees trying to get across the Thames, and this ship gave their lives to. But that's
might have it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Another one that we can haven't played much of them. There's one company. I think it's called 2 Hour War Games.
Yes.
And what they do is they put out these miniature systems that are what's the binding type of called? It's not like
almost like spiral bound.
Yeah, that's it. Spiral bound. Almost like that. And they put out a lot of different systems based on, there's like a gladiatorial system for ancient Rome, and then you've got one that has monsters that you can put in it. There's one called After the Horseman,
or
After the Horseman.
Yeah,
it's an apocalyptic one that, if you ever played games like Mordheim or Necromunda, it's sort of like that, where you have groups of characters going around trying to find treasure.
And they have Nuts, which is based on World War II. If you're into the World War II tactical war games, you might enjoy that. What I like about it is the rules are relatively inexpensive, but the way it's done up, if you want to get into that, and say you're into Nuts, if you've got that, you can go out for $1 down at your local dollar store and buy those little green plastic army men, and you've got all your figs. Mm-hmm. You're ready to play.
I think they also have like a science fiction one and a couple other ones. I don't know the website offhand. I guess I should have written it down here to reference. But go into Google or Yahoo, your favorite search engine, type it in, see what you can find out.
Well, I'm thinking I've been looking at those myself, and I'm thinking about trying to pick up one or two of those games for us to do a review on. I don't know. Like I say, Nuts. The one I'm thinking about with that one is I can get down here to the dollar store and we can get some Army Men, and we can play that out. Heck, he was even showing me, or Tony was showing me, he saw a thing online where a guy had taken Charioteer, and because the way it's written, you can change a lot of the stuff. He took the Charioteer game and did it on a post-apocalyptic setting where guys had taken these old cars, and they're now knights that have jousting tournaments and stuff with these old cars, and he took matchboxes and made his own. It looks really neat, but it's just something this guy did on his own, and he has a blast with his friends playing.
And well, you know what? I think that's going to wrap up the games portion there for this particular podcast. And we're not going to so much rush to the end here, but we're going to touch on a bunch of different things that we have here. Coming events, like we said, we were recording this toward late October, and it's Thursday is Halloween.
Yeah.
So this is the 28th of October. Got some interesting Halloween pictures and whatnot. You can send them to our address. We'll try and get them posted on ourbigBlueBall.com. See how much fun people had, various costumes and whatnot. In the area, Franklin County is going to be having its annual Fall Festival. It's going to be in conjunction with the 4-H Therapeutic Riding Center on Franklin Farm Lane. That's going to be on November 2nd, so that's going to be this Saturday. We're going to have a bunch of Franklin County government human services agencies there. There's going to be Department of Forestry there. We're going to have McGruff the Crime Dog there. Get photos with Santa. There's a craft bazaar just for an early Christmassy type of holiday gathering, which I hope you can attend. CF has a bunch of stuff there, and they will have refreshments as well. One of the things is that, like I said, if you got any pictures of any events that you want to get out there, we'll see what we can do on ourbigBlueBall.com.
Right.
Once again, ourbigBlueBall.com. You can send them to us. We'll try to get them posted when we can. Another thing we wanted to push here, it's getting to be toward the end of the year, and that means Christmas is coming.
Right.
And especially with the economy and things are going.
There's a lot of kids who are going to be doing without.
There are a lot of kids who are going to be. And what we're trying to do is push Toys for Tots. That's going to be toysfortots.org. There, they should have a locator of where collection places are. Yeah. Neverland Games annually has a box there for people who want to pick up games.
And if you're not in our local area, every mall, just go to your local mall. I think just about every mall in the country has got a box somewhere that you can put those in. I'd also like to say one little thank you, first of all, to all our servicemen, but to the Marines. I really appreciate what you've done. I was Air Force. I really appreciate what you've done. And in doing the Toys for Tots, I know it's a lot of retired Marines, a lot of former Marines that are still involved in that. I want to thank you for that, too. I wish there was a way I could help, but I'm struggling to get by myself.
Now, once again, toysfortots.org. It'll have a location, Dropbox, or collection place that you can go to.
You can make donations right through them.
Yep, that's what you can do. And once again, Neverland Games has one as a box annually. So if you're in the area, pick one up. A game or two. Maybe a game or two. Something will bring a smile to a child's face. Even if you have to go to your game store, buy one, and then go take it to a drop-off point. I think it'll make a lot of difference in a child's life. Okay, and do we have anything else that's really popping up? I mean, we're going on like almost an hour and 15 minutes here.
Yeah. I'm going to say, by the way, I'm usually down at Neverland on Tuesdays during the afternoon up to the evening. If you're curious about who is HuMei, stop by and you can see who HuMei is, and I'll actually introduce myself.
Yep, and since HuMei's there, Tony over at Neverland Games, he's the proprietor. He has a lot of open copies of games. You want to sit down and play something, say, well, I'm in the mood for something like this. Tony and or HuMei can sort of set you up, and if they don't know how to play, they'll sit down and play it with you. Maybe get some of the other regulars, and you can see if there's a game there you want to pick up or not. I think that's pretty much going to close up part of our last, the majority of our second podcast. What I'd like you to do is like us on Facebook, www.facebook.com/ourbigBlueBall. And, of course, the website is ourbigBlueBall.com. You can also catch us on Twitter, and we'll try to get some more tweets out here at www.twitter.com/Edo HuMei. Just Edo HuMei, not Edo and HuMei.
Oh, and our email addresses are Edo at ourbigBlueBall.com and HuMei, HuMei, at ourbigBlueBall.com.
So what? We're looking for your comments. If you like what you hear, send us some comments. If you don't like what you hear, send us some comments.
Yeah.
Send us some of the pictures like we asked you before. Just you having a blast. We'll get some stuff up there. Maybe when you need to announce an event or something like that, maybe you got some pictures from last year. Said, okay, it's coming up this year again. We want to get up there, tell people what happened last year, which is going to be great. If you got something you want us to talk about, get our opinions. Maybe you differ with us on our review of a movie. Maybe you hated Hudson Hawk. I don't know.
Yep.
But you know what? It builds repertoire with our fans and our listeners, and we want to make sure that you always get a chuckle when you listen to our show here.
And if you got a game out there that you can't understand or you're having trouble with, again, shoot us an email. We may not have the answer ourselves, but we probably know where we can get the answer. So please contact us.
Okay. Well, like usual, I'd like to thank you for listening to us this morning, afternoon, evening, night, whenever you may be tuning in, and we hope that you're going to be able to tune in for our next podcast as well. So, as usual, say bye, HuMei.
See you, HuMei.